Well, hello, good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about somatic signs of complex trauma. And it's such a huge and fascinating topic that it's going to be hard to condense the basics in a few minutes, but I will try to do my best. So as we know, single incidents of trauma can be experienced with some dysregulated arousal, some triggers to past events in the here and now. But when we're talking about complex trauma, we're talking about more chronic traumatization that happens especially from early childhood. And it requires for the person or the child to have been so over and over traumatized that now their integrative capacity is very little. And usually there is a structural dissociation of the personality, meaning that the personality had to split to cope with the overwhelming events into a part that has gone on with daily life and a part or parts that have are still fixated in the trauma. And this is, of course, we know from Pierre Janet, from Ono van der Hart, Eller Niehaus, and Kathy Steele, Janina Fisher, all of our experts in complex trauma tell us about structural dissociation and how we can detect it and treat it. So with this structural dissociation of the personality, another main feature is dissociative symptoms. And we all experience some degree of dissociation. There is some normal dissociation, and there is pathological dissociation that requires alterations in consciousness that impair more the functioning and daily life of the person. So with this said, knowing that complex trauma has forced adaptively the individual to have a split their personality in several parts, and we have dissociative symptoms, there is also another feature that is very important for us to know, which is lack of awareness. The clients that are usually severely traumatized are not aware how what's happening to them and how these symptoms are operating, because these parts or these aspects of them take over executive control under stressful circumstances. And this is what we're going to have to pay attention to. So some signs of complex trauma are going to be just already a given in their presentation. They're going to come to your office with a history of hospitalizations, perhaps suicidal ideation or attempts, chronic dysregulation, maybe probably many phobias, even amnesia or dissociative fugue, an array of different symptoms that are going to be already pointing into that direction of complex trauma. But how can we in our offices detect the signs, the body signs that complex trauma is happening, and what is happening exactly? So what we can encounter is that at particular moments in session, these parts of the personality, these aspects of them that are not integrated, that take executive control, are going to show up either in the form of thoughts, maybe related to a fight response or a flight response or a freeze, submit, or attach, cry, but also in emotions that are experienced overwhelming. So the parts themselves are not experienced or not show up as maybe parts that we can recognize, but they're going to show up in body symptoms or body states or overwhelming emotions or particular cognitions that are related to any of these animal defenses or trauma responses. So if at a particular moment we might have even several of them showing up in therapy. So particular trigger, it could be external, internal, related to a particular phobia. This is also the work of Kathy Steele, the phobias related to complex trauma, We have phobia of attachment is one of the basic ones, which means that even in the therapeutic relationship, client is going to have difficulty with dependency needs and feeling close to us. So they might have difficulty needing us and feeling close to us, but also they might have difficulty and phobia, not just difficulty, but phobia of losing us. So we're going to see this ambivalence. At some moments, maybe a part of them that is more fixated in the attached cry response might have this moving forward, opening the eyes, seeking our contact, needing to be rescued, perhaps a panicky tone of voice, a more childlike, panicky state with agitation, not knowing themselves how to manage their own dysregulated arousal at that moment. And it's going to show up in that way. But at the same time, maybe there could be a frightened part, frightened to lose us. And it might be more pulled back, more frozen. So the client might alternate at moments between the pulling forward or the shame and the collapse from feeling that dependency need, even in the therapeutic relationship. Sometimes a fight part might show up. And how can we see somatic signs of a fight part? Well, it could be expressed through tension in the jaws, or maybe tension in the body, the fists. It could be a more critical tone of voice, or critical words, or more condescending toward us. They could be more hypervigilant, more mistrustful, and we can see that the suspiciousness in the eyes. So these parts are going to show in these ways, okay? Perhaps at a particular moment, we're going to see signs of complex trauma when clients are, another phobia that Kathy still talks about is internal experience. So they might have a particular phobia of experiencing their own body, or particular body states that are associated with overwhelming feelings of distress, or feeling a void, or feeling anguish, or confusion, or darkness, desperation, feeling helpless. So these emotional states go with somatic experiences. They might be phobic of. So sometimes these states might be overwhelming, and they might get out of the window, and they might become a bit dissociative and confused, or dizzy, or nausea at a particular moment. That could be a sign that a part is present and they don't have the integrative capacity to be present with that part. Or they can be phobic of the body, and they might just be talking, very cognitive. They find refuge in cognition because, as we know, trauma is experienced usually through overwhelmed emotions, dysregulated arousal, and dysregulated bodily sensations. So, of course, it's going to be very difficult for them to be in connection with their body, because either they're going to be out of the window with panicky sensations, agitated heart rate, anguish, agitation, rapid heart rate, that it feels very uncomfortable, or the collapse, the helplessness, the impotence, the shame related to submit. So in order to not feel these overwhelming emotions or body sensations, they might just disconnect altogether, and that's a defense. So they might be a part that has learned to cope by disconnecting altogether from their own experience. So there is so many to watch for. Sometimes they might come back the session after and not remember what we did in session, a resource that maybe they learned, a particular psychoeducation that we provided, because now this session afterwards, another part might be present and it doesn't remember what was said. So this confusion and alternating in states, even within a session or from session to session, could be indicators that there is not a very yet developed adult part or more consciously aware part that can recognize that this is happening, these changes in alternations of consciousness and parts that take over. So let me see. Sometimes our clients are going to have impulses of movement, wanting to get out of the room or wanting to hide, or a very young tone of voice, or that could be from a very young part. Or sometimes they might be talking. And I remember the other day with a client, when he was talking, he was touching the right leg with both of his hands. And then when he switched his way of talking, it seemed more adult part, then he was touching his left leg. So then it seemed interesting that, you know, depending on which part was present, he was experiencing a certain pain in the neck or a certain sensation in his leg, and the different parts might be expressing themselves at particular moments through different parts of their bodies, different perhaps somatic sensations, chronic pain, numbness, whatever it is. So if we have a client that experiences a particular pain at a particular moment in therapy, or with a particular trigger in their life, or numbness, we might have to become curious. I wonder what has happened that has triggered this part to not want to feel or to experience this discomfort in a form of a body sensation. So the best thing we can do, this is not a video on treatment, but the more we have our system of exploration and collaboration with our clients, just being very curious about and very moment to moment present to what's happening, to how clients react to our interventions, to what's said, to what's not said, to what happens, appear to be happening internally. The more we can have their own exploration system online that can help us start to create a map of how they function and how these parts of themselves, the particular way they are organized in cognitive and in somatic ways. So that's it for today. Thank you very much.